Now, I could even explain animals which forcefully mate with one another, and in the process sometimes even kill them, but hopefully that was enough to show you just how much nature has absolutely no morals at all, and morals are actually just a construct that humans made, and there's a very good reason as to why morals exist between humans. Nature has no morals. Now, there are many reasons why people might argue whether or not meat is healthy, whether or not meat isn't healthy, or maybe even whether or not meat is ethical in the first place to eat. Now, I'm not actually going to be talking about the biochemistry behind it this time. In fact, I'm going to be talking about a different argument, and we're going to be looking at this more so from a philosophical perspective, which I don't usually do, but in this video, because I do like philosophy, I will be explaining this a little bit more philosophical perspective. Now, some of the things that I'll be covering are basically the brutality of nature, as one example, why humans don't have the same rights than animals, and what exactly is the purpose of morality in the first place. Now, there's an argument out there that says eating animals is immoral and anyone who eats animals is immoral. Now, for this argument against eating animals, we actually have to understand the purpose of morals in the first place and why morals actually exist. Now, there's reasons why morals exist among humans. However, there is very, very obvious evidence that in nature, morals don't really exist. Now, the nice thing is civilization is here, and it allows us to not have to experience the brutality of nature, and it pretty much actually allows us to ignore a lot of the brutality of nature and what exactly happens in nature. And not only that, it gives us a very, very good reason as to why we don't want to go back into nature. And this is, you're going to see why. So to give a bit of an understanding in a bit more context as to why nature has no morals, we have to look at some things in nature that happen themselves. And this is very common and normally done. Now, the first example of nature not having any morals at all is carnivores eating herbivores. Now, there's an argument which says basically eating another animal is immoral because you are causing harm to them. Well, if we look out in nature, we actually see that animals eat each other all the time, and they inflict absolutely excruciating amounts of pain to each other while doing so in the process, maybe even eating them alive. It could be a lion eating a gazelle, it could even be a hyena eating a gazelle, it could be a wolf eating a deer. There are just plenty of examples of carnivores out there in the world which just cannot abide by this rule of morality, because even if they did have the ability to reason like this, they physically could not sustain themselves and they would die in the process.
Animals eat other animals. It's nature.
No, it isn't. We taught a lion to eat tofu. The point is, you shouldn't eat things that feel pain.
Okay, we won't eat you.
I'll go get some more bricks.
Now, the second argument to show how nature is absolutely brutal is not just carnivores eating herbivores, but actually herbivores eating other herbivores, which might sound very strange, but when you do a little bit of research, you'll realize herbivores will eat other herbivores. Now, there are a couple examples of this, and this is not even pleasant to sometimes mention because it's a little bit weird, but regardless, some examples could be deers eating small birds. It could even be a herbivore like a chimpanzee, for instance, eating a monkey. Now, yes, that one is actually a lot more common than you think, and chimps do eat a lot of plants. However, when they have the chance, they do have the opportunity to eat these little monkeys, they will go absolutely wild for them.
With the food hauled to the ground, the excited chimps gather in a noisy scrum, hungry for flesh. Although this organised hunt now looks like a disorganised scramble, it's always the dominant males who get the choicest cuts.
Now, the third instance to show that nature has no morality and other animals have no morality is animals eating their own offspring. Now, this one is actually a little bit more abundant, and hopefully this is a little bit more of a clear indicator as to why exactly humans and animals don't exactly have the same rights. Now, just a list of animals that eat their own offspring could be things like rabbits, fish, guppies, mice, hamsters, guinea pigs, lions, chickens, and obviously this is quite crazy, and if that doesn't show a lack of morality, then I don't know what does. The fourth example of nature having absolutely no morals whatsoever is playing with their food. Now, you might have seen that many animals, maybe even your own animal if you have a cat, will play with their food, and an example could be a cat with a mouse. Now, it will do some quite heinous things to that mouse, and in the process, it will literally play with its food. It might even rip and tear it a little bit, and then it'll let it go, and it'll run away, and then it'll chase after it again. So this is obviously very, very cruel behavior, and it's inflicting a lot of pain. The fifth example of nature having absolutely no morals is plants actually fending for themselves. Now, animals aren't actually the only ones that are particularly cruel. Plants are quite cruel themselves, and they have a lot of tricks up their sleeve. Now, just one example could be oleander. Now, oleander is really sick, but if you eat this stuff, or basically you expose yourself to this stuff, then you will end up having seizures, vomiting, stomach cramps, heart failure, and this happens within hours. Now, there's another example like the castor bean, which, although it's known as ricin, and you might have even heard of that before, yeah, you probably already know ricin is a poison, and it causes seizures, organ failure, bloody stools, and just within days. So that's a pretty torturous experience, and that's a lot of pain and suffering. Another example could even be water hemlock, and water hemlock is once again known to cause violent seizures, muscle twitching, respiratory failure, and all of that within 15 minutes or 6 hours. And I mean, at least it's not days on end, but regardless, it is still torturous, and imagine experiencing all of that for about 15 minutes to 6 hours. I mean, there are many, many plants out there that are instantly lethal, and there's way, way longer of a list that I didn't even mention of plants that are able to cause all of these problems. Now, every plant actually has these defense chemicals. However, some of them are not necessarily as pronounced. Some of them are a little bit different, and there's a whole list to that, and it's all, as a general rule though, every single plant is toxic, and the dose of the toxicity is just dependent on how much of it you eat, but they are all toxic, and that has to do with the fact that they have phytotoxins. Now, the sixth example that nature has absolutely no morals at all is animals with parasitic behavior. Now, you might have heard of one of them being the cuckoo bird. Now, this one will lay its eggs in a nest of another bird species. And this chick that they lay, the cuckoo chick specifically, will grow faster and way, way earlier than all the other chicks. And not only that, it will actually push the other chicks out of the nest because it wants to monopolize and prioritize on the food that's being provided by the mother or whoever the caretaker is. And that's not the only one. Parasitoid wasps also lay their eggs inside the bodies of other insects and allow the larva to basically eat the insect from the inside out. Now, this is quite a demonstration of immorality. I wouldn't say that that's necessarily too moral. In fact, that's quite disturbing. And hopefully this gives an example as to just how absolutely ridiculous and how nature has quite literally no morals. It does not care. Now, I could even explain animals which forcefully mate with one another, and in the process sometimes even kill them, but hopefully that was enough to show you just how much nature has absolutely no morals at all, and morals are actually just a construct that humans made, and there's a very good reason as to why morals exist between humans. Now, the main reason as to why pretty much every single animal out there in nature has no moral compass whatsoever has to do with the fact of social cohesion. Now, humans in particular absolutely need social cohesion, and we thrive off of it because this is how we make such amazing things, and we keep grouping together to such a large extent and cooperating on such a large degree. Now, we are able to do this, and in the process there are some things that are needed. However, animals do not do this, and they cannot do this, and this is the difference pretty much between civilization and nature, humans and nature, and basically another animal. Now, this is a little bit difficult for us to actually see, or maybe even the brutality of nature, for instance, because we can't really see it with our own eyes, quite literally, because we've eradicated most of it, and we have actually conquered most of it, and we have overcome nature to the point where nature is pretty much serving us, and we are the ones who are shaping our environment rather than nature shaping us, which is a completely different thing that I mean, it's a really amazing step in evolution. But maybe there are some examples which could hopefully describe to you or even show you just the brutality of nature and how humans can literally be, especially when put back into nature, and just some of the things that are in nature which are very, very clearly very disturbing.
The jungle just gets into your skin.
Oh, what is that on your face?
MRSA infection. It started like, mosquito bites, and then I would scratch, and then you don't realize you're spreading it with your fingernails. And you go like this. It looked bad. And I spent days in the hospital. Like it was really, really bad.
Now, if you go live out in the Amazon jungle or the Amazon rainforest, chances are pretty good that you are not going to survive that long, or maybe even at all for that matter. You will most likely be torn to shreds by other humans.
She's floating down the river. She looks back, and the last thing she sees is these guys getting to her husband and beginning to rip him apart. As Victor comes down the river, this is a guy we work with every day. He comes down the river and sees his friend disemboweled, opened up, dissected. His parts are all over the beach. The beach is red. And they only found out what happened because they found her later on holding onto a stick in the river. And they were like, what happened? And she was like, they just attacked. They don't want people on their land.
Or you will be infected by some sort of a parasite or something, God knows what. So hopefully this is an indicator that, yeah, this is not where you want to be. Now, if you're really interested in seeing just the brutality of nature with your eyes quite literally, maybe captured in a photo, just type it in Google Images. I can't show it on YouTube because it's pretty brutal, but type in nature brutality and you will see it with your very own eyes. Nature is very brutal. Now, this concept of social cohesion actually is very, very unique among humans. In fact, there are no animals that are able to cooperate on this level of a scale, maybe besides ants. And this is very, very interesting because this goes to show just the power that cooperation can quite literally have. But for any of that cooperation to even happen in the first place, there has to be some level of morality because there has to be some level of responsibility. Now, this is exactly where one thing comes to mind, and that is religion. Now, there is one very, very important thing about religion, and it could be maybe the 10 Commandments or something along those lines, but the bottom line has to do with there is some sense of morality being developed, and that is very, very important for social cohesion. This basically means that for a society to even exist successfully, there cannot be absolute chaos over and over again, and rules and ethics would need to be in place for other humans. And obviously, if humans could eat one another, which is absolutely ridiculous, and not be held accountable, then we would obviously no longer be in civilization. We would be right back where we were in nature. Now, the rules of morality applies only to us humans, but it doesn't necessarily apply to other animals. Well, why is that? This has to do with the fact that animals do not have the ability to take accountability, and they can't be held accountable in any way to basically make moral choices and that sort of thing in the process. Now, this could just be an example. Let's say your cat, you have a house cat. Now, this house cat isn't necessarily immoral in the sense it might make you feel really nice and it's all fluffy, but when there is a mouse, it will torture that mouse to death and it will play with its food. And that might seem absolutely completely immoral and ridiculous, but this is just how they function. This is how their brain operates. There isn't really a way to teach them morality and to teach them that they shouldn't be playing with their food because playing with their food causes a lot of suffering. The whole point is the cat themselves cannot actually process or does not even have any concept of the sense of morality. It does not exist in the cat's brain and it is completely irrelevant to the cat, if not incomprehensible. Now, that is exactly why animals do not have the same rights than humans, and it's because of this whole sense of accountability, and they cannot be taken accountable for their actions or even have a sense of morality, at least to the degree that we do. So to summarize everything, there are pretty much two main reasons as to why humans and why animals don't actually have the same rights. And the first one is the fact that they can't think rationally at the same degree that we can, and they don't have that same level of ability to reason. Now, the second reason is the fact that they don't have the same sense of morals and basically the same sense of accountability. So those are the two main reasons as to why humans and why animals don't have the same rights. Now, there are actually some animals out there who have some level of responsibility or accountability, and an example could be something like a primate, an elephant, a dolphin, wolves, rats, dogs, crows. I mean, they do have some level of morality, but they are nowhere near to the degree and understanding of morality that we possess and the degree and understanding of accountability that we possess. And once again, that is because they simply cannot comprehend whatsoever as to whether or not they did or did not do an immoral action. It doesn't even register in their brain. Hopefully, this explains why nature doesn't even have morals in the first place, and morals pretty much don't exist in nature, and they are a human construct, which thank God they are, because if they aren't, we would be living back in nature, and I probably wouldn't want to be back there. Now, if you found this video interesting, then I recommend you check out my video on why the rich don't want you to eat meat. Now, that might sound a little weird, but there actually is some philosophy, and oddly enough, there actually is religion behind this, which is a very, very interesting one, and it goes into a lot of detail and it explains the not just corruption, but the origins of how all of this happened and how this whole basically epidemic of human disease states really started to increase and started to happen. Now, thanks for watching. If you found this video informative, then please like, subscribe, and comment, and share the video, because it really does help spread the word and it helps grow this channel, and it's if you want to show appreciation. And if you really want to help support this channel grow as well as see content ahead of time, then please click the join button down below, because that is where you can help me personally and support this channel and help it grow quite a bit. So once again, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.
Peace.